So today let us discuss the buffer overflow attacks. If time permits, wireless attacks. Okay. So let's briefly understand the history of buffer overflow. As you are aware that the terminology buffer is belongs to the memory, computer memory. Overflow means if the computer memory is 1 gigabytes, you are trying to push the data more than the allocated. Suppose 1 GB of data can push onto the computer memory. So 1 GB point 1 byte also is an nothing but an overflow. So these kind of attack usually based on the memory based attack, the attackers trying to exploit the memory attacks, especially if the code has been written with C or C++ language. Since in the C language, you heard about the pointers concept. Pointers are allowed to access the computer memory. So the C or C++ coding, both are vulnerable to attack. So that's why Java came into existence to handle the memory management. And with the concept of Java, you are going to prevent the somehow you are going to prevent the buffer flow attacks. So during 1988, during that time itself, Morris Worm, the first recorded computer worm, it made the buffer overflow attack. Bajay. The second kind of another is code red, Sasser worm. Down the years, it become reduced because the technology has been improved from time to time. So the memory attacks will be reduced. So what is the difference between a vulnerability and an exploit? Vulnerability is nothing but it is a weakness exist in the targeted system, whereas exploit is the number of steps involved to compromise the targeted machine. Number of steps involved to compromise the targeted machine. It includes the payload and etc. Okay, most recent, probably you heard about the Heartbleed high profile incident. It was happened with during the year 2014. What is Heartbleed does? So it is a serious vulnerability in the popular OpenSSL cryptography software library. So cryptography helpful to protect the data, whereas this Heartbleed, it's a bug, means it is a gap in the software for OpenSSL protocol. This weakness allows stealing the information protected under normal conditions by the SSL or TLS encryption used to secure the internet. So this is the one of the latest Heartbleed bug in the OpenSSL library. So one example for how you can identify in a series of code, how you can identify is there any bug is there or any gaps are there. The attacker is trying to peep into the codes. By analyzing the code, the attacker will able to understand. The attacker will able to understand through some of the injections of the codes in the regular existing code, or by removing some of the code, the software may going to allow us to enter into the targeted machines. So you can look into the code of this integer method. The return type is void. Then character buffer 8 space is allocated. String copy, you are copying the content of a string hello world to buffer. So you declared the buff with 8 bytes of memory, but you are pushing hello world. Total how many characters? Hello is 5 word is 5, 10, one space is 1, 11, and null character is 12. Total 12 character you are trying to push onto the buffer. Where it will go, whether the string copy that is going to copy the hello world to the buffer, or it is going to fail to load it into the memory. Or is it a syntax error or the execution error or runtime error? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So tell me the answer. Is it syntax error or runtime error? Ajit. Is it runtime error or syntax error, or the code is going to execute? Either you can use the C compiler or C++ compiler or Java compiler or any other compilers, whether this code works fine or throws the error. You can use your laptop or the phone for online compilers. Online compilers are available. You can use them. You can execute this code and know the answer. It's runtime error. In case of what? C compiler, C or C++ compiler. Still it executes in Java or other latest, because if it is dynamic array allocation supported by the compiler, there will be no error. The program is going to execute. In case of the C++ languages, those compiler, it may not give the syntax error, or it may not give the runtime error. Maybe the string may be concatenated. String may be only hello space wo may be going to allocate to the memory. So means the intended is 8 character, you are pushing to the 12 characters. It's a difficult, right? So these kind of the things is termed to be as a overflow. Overflow. Why is there why is there a buffer overflow? The program allocated 8 bytes for buff, but wrote 12 bytes into it, including the null character at the end of the word. Is this buffer overflow vulnerability exploitable? Likely not. A constant string is written into a buffer. This is an example of binning of buffer overflow. This is the one simple example for buffer overflow. So another example, buffer overflow example, it is exploitable in this case. So int get user input character buffer, maximum size allocated is 1024, gets buff. What is the functionality of gets? Get s or gets it to get the input from the command line. What is the functionality of scanf? What is the functionality of the scanf? I am expecting answer from audience.
Reading data from user at runtime.
Gets. What's the job of gets?
It takes input from users or string input.
So what is the difference? Scanf and gets. Both are inputs.
Gets is
Scanf is
specific for string, no sir.
formatted input. Formatted input happens through scanf. F stands for what? Formatted. Scanf. F stands for formatted input. Scanf. You need to specify explicitly format specifier, like if you read the integer %d, if you read the floating %f, formatting you are specifying there. Whereas in getS, everything it will treat it as a string. If you pass number also, it will treat it as a string, right? Gets input, you are obtaining a unformatted input. In this case, there is a chances of exploit. It's a malicious example. So if the user keep on inputting the values, one memory usually it is a 1 byte of memory, one cell represent 1 byte. If it is 1024 bytes exceeded this limit, there is a chances in the buffer overflow. Gets will continue to read input until it encounters a null character. Null character means usually return character. When you press enter key, it will return null, means it terminates the entire string. On the command line, potentially writing more than 1024 bytes into buffer. But programmatically it is right. Programmatically it is right. Okay, this is another malicious example. Syntactically it is right, but if the user started validating whether it accepts the more than 1024 bytes or not, to check that, you can try to if you are trying to push push more than 1024 bytes, then the program might going to get crashed. Memory error might it is going to be thrown. Why are buffer overflows dangerous? It can crash memory. Crashing the program can be used to hijack the program, especially when you are working with the Linux versions of the program. setuid root programs are there. If such programs are compromised by the hackers, then it will be more dangerous to the system, because usually setuid root programs such that those programs are most important programs to run and handle the processes for the operating systems. So operating system processors usually those programs are setting as setuid root program. For example, if admin is there, admin for the Linux system usually is root and root default system user ID password. Suppose if that admin provides the it creates the one more user only to read and write onto the system, and he is not allowed supposed to change the password, etc. and so on. So the new user who has created by admin does not have access to setuid programs. If you are able to access setuid programs, the root password can themselves, then they can change the password, and even the hackers can stop accessing by admin itself. So that's the most dangerous if buffer overflow attack on setuid programs in Linux operating systems. So the explanation of the same here, cat file with some really long content. When you run this code, now what does the program do? Why does it terminate with a segmentation fault? What is segmentation fault? So cat, it's a message concatenating to the output of the code which is written here. Long, if it is really long content, means the allocated space is 1024. Behind 1024, if you are pushing, it is end up with the segmentation fault. The segmentation fault, usually it causes programs to crash. So usually segmentation fault means memory crash. How attackers locate buffer overflow vulnerabilities? So how the attackers is locating these kind of vulnerabilities is using fuzzing. Fuzzing is nothing but a testing. That is brute force approach. They're using brute force approach to test the code. Is there any vulnerabilities are there in the existing code or not? Fuzzing stands for the practice of feeding random inputs to a program and observing its behavior. So to the program, usually suppose if you're writing the addition of two numbers program, you are writing C equal to A plus B. So your intended program is you want to add two integer numbers. But if that program, if it is on the hands of testers, testing hands, they will start inputting the floating numbers. They will start inputting the special characters. They start inputting the string words or characters. Then obviously program intended is adding two numbers of positive integer numbers, whereas when they start giving inputs, then the program behaves differently. Definitely, if it crashes with a segmentation fault, there is very likely a buffer overflow vulnerability in the program. If that while behaving by getting input, then the program behaves and ends up with the segmentation fault kind of thing, then hacker will come and understand that there is a chances of buffer overflow vulnerability in the program. This is the first step hackers often use to exploiting the program. So there are other methods too, is there source code inspection, machine code inspection, etc. Fuzzing is one method by giving the random inputs. If the program is end up with the segmentation fault or the crash to the memory, this is a one possibility of exploit. Another set of the exploitings are the source code inspection line by line. By going through the line by line source code, the hacker is come to understand is there any vulnerability are there. So it is not for the new user, Navy users. Usually, when they write the code, they won't check about the vulnerabilities. They simply write the code. The experienced programmer only identify the vulnerabilities are there, anything is there in the running code. So machine code inspection is machine code inspection. Usually the assembly code, the hacker or the programmer is going to look into. So some example, probably it's visible. Is this visible? Understanding to exploit a buffer overflow, we first need to understand the concept of a process. Even process also allocates a memory. Suppose if you call buffer method, BUF method, so how exactly it is going to locate in the computer memory? So the program, if you are writing a program, means it is going to allocate the memory for entire program. So there are three different memory locations it is identified. One is program machine code, another one is global data. If the data is shared among the several modules of the program, that's a one chunk of memory. So program machine code is program instructions. So program uses either stack based memory or heap based memory. Always try to avoid the use of stack based memory, because when buffer overflow occurs, then that program is going to be exploited by the hackers. Heap based memory means dynamic memory allocations will be possible whenever it exceeds the capacity of the assigned instruction. Then it is going to extend the memory, and that memory is going to allocate for the input. So heap based memory is safer than the stack based memory. So when you run the program, what is the scenario? When you run the program, you just look into the bottom of memory, process control block. So process control block is allocated, means once that method is called, after completing the process, it should come back to the originally where it was called, right? For that, it is allocating the control block first. It might be 4 bytes of memory in case of the C++, 2 bytes of memory in case of the C program. So depending on the compiler design and assembly instructions, memory is going to allocate it. So program machine code is on top of the control block. Then global data, because it's shared among the several variables, several modules, so globally. Then heap memory. The next level is spare memory. Suppose if you are running with heap memory, spare memory will be used if not sufficient when the process is running, then that memory is going to be used. Then stack memory, kernel code and data, then process images in main memory. So memory, top of the memory, and for example, if program, it uses the 2 kilobytes, entire program code it is written using 2 kilobytes. The memory it is going to allocate for it is, let us say, 4 kilobytes, double of it. Why double of it? If the program has several modules for execution, to carry out the execution, it requires some additional space to run that code. Okay, just a memory representation of a process. How process actually represented at the background of the system interface. This is the way how the memory is allocated for the process. So code and data layout within a process, all data is stored on an array of bytes. So in the process, in this process diagram, all the data, code, etc., everything, it is resided in the series of memory, that is array of memory. Interpretation depends on instructions used. So if the program, let us say the program is addition of 2 numbers, 2 inputs are taken in the main program, you call the add method, you call depending on the type of the data you are passing. So here how many calls are there? One is main call, another one is subroutine call, that is add call. Once add call is finished its work, it has to come back to the main call. Depending on the interpretation and instructions used in the code, you are required to allocate the additional memory. That is, U is nothing but here the compiler is going to decide how much of memory is required to process the request of the user. Usually C and C++ based programs allow the code to directly access memory and don't check bounds, hence are vulnerable to buffer overflow exploits. So usually the compilers, C and C++ compilers, allow the user or the hacker directly access the memory. That won't check the boundary, where from where it starts, where it ends, in which location that data is assigned. It is not going to check. By just moving the pointer, from one address to another address of the memory, you are going to fetch some information from the computer. So that's why these two languages are vulnerable to the buffer overflow attacks. So another set of other about the diagram. Every process has an address space in memory. The process representation is every process has address space in memory. What is address space? Space allocated to store the process instructions and data which is relevant to carry out the process. Address space is set of memory addresses that are accessible to the processes. Here you can see the address space here. You can see this is the address space. This is total address space of the process. The address space is the set of memory addresses that are accessible to the process. This address space allocated for global data. This address space is allocated for heap, dump memory, spare memory, stack memory, usually local variables stored in stack, kernel code and the data used to process, and this is a main running code. Suppose you return the program using main method. When you run the program, this is going to map to the process memory. Every address can store a piece of data, usually 1 byte long. Every address, each address is going to store a piece of data, minimum. Computers understand binary or hexadecimal notation, and so we represent these addresses as hexadecimal numbers. Usually the addresses representation is like this: 0 x a f 0 1. So it represents hexadecimal representation of the one specific address. For example, let's say this one. Okay. This is a coding part, as the students expected me to go with some of the real-time coding. This is coding part, what I explained. So now we'll learn with the theoretical concept of buffer overflow. A buffer overflow or buffer overrun, alternatively we use buffer overrun, is an anomaly, that is irregularity, where a process stores data in a buffer outside the memory the programmer has set aside for it. So buffer overflow, who is going to fix the buffer overflow? The programmer, the developer of the code. It has to be taken care to fix such kind of the bugs in the program or buffer overflows. Extra data may result in erratical program behavior, including memory access errors, incorrect result, program termination, are a breach of system security. So incorrect erratic or behavior of the program includes the memory access errors like trash, segmentation, fault error, etc. It will end up with incorrect result. So the addition is two integer number. If your input is the two floating point number 1.1 plus 2.3, usually the output according to the real world calculation, the output is 3.4, whereas but you are getting only 3 value. It's incorrect in result of the addition of numbers. So program abrupt termination of program happens, breach of system security. So once segmentation fault happens, means a vulnerability is identified by the hackers. It can be triggered by inputs that are designed to execute code or alter way the program operates. So programming language associated with it, including C or C++, which provide no built-in protection against accessing or overwriting data in any part of the memory. So C or C++ compilers are not designed to protect the data or the access of the memory. Security attack on data integrity usually happen because they are allowed to directly access the memory using the concept of pointers. So look into the here the image. Buffer overflow means the bucket size is this much. You are overflowing the liquid onto a bucket. The exceeded the liquid come out of the bucket. It's a loss of memory. So types of buffer overflow are two types: stack based and heap based. Stack based buffer overflow is that occurs when a program writes to memory address on the program call stack outside the intended data structure, usually fixed length buffer. For example, if suppose if there are two variables A and B, let's say try to understand. This is the memory. This is A. This is B. This is result R. Right. Suppose this is a stack memory. So pointer is it is starting the pointer. If the pointer start beginning to read the content, if it reads this address, this does not have any value, so null value read by the pointer. Then when you move the pointer to the next address, A value is read. A plus null is end up with some result error. So error leads to a memory crash or the incorrect result. So depends, because pointers are used here. Pointers are allowed to move anywhere from one code line to another code. So that is the advantage as well as the disadvantage for the security point of view. When the program reads the data outside the stack memory, there is a chances of the overflow or the wrong reading of the data content by the pointers. So stack is a memory space in which automatic variables are allocated. Stack is a memory space in which automatic variables are allocated. Function parameters are allocated on stack and are not automatically initialized by the system. If you are defining the function like suppose add int a comma int b, if you call the function, so these int a and int b are the variables is going to be allocated but not initialized. So for A and B, the memory is going to allocate. This is for A, this is for B. No value as of now here for the A and B. Once function has completed its cycle, the reference to the variable in the stack is removed. Once the program is over, for example, if you are writing the code return A plus B, return A plus B. So after adding this code, this memory is going to be destroyed from the so return, when return is called, where the function call was happened, it go back to that control point, right? This code is going to be vanished from the memory. Once function has completed its cycle, the reference to the variable in the stack is removed. So it won't destroy physically, logically the memory, just these two references which was given to access for A and B is going to be removed. The attacker may exploit stack-based buffer overflow to manipulate the program in various ways by overwriting. So not only single way, various way by overwriting, the attacker can try to go with the buffer overflow. A local variable that is near the buffer in memory on the stack to change the behavior of the program that may benefit the attacker. So as you said, if any program means if it is a entire, this is the entire block for the program P1, let's say program P1, it has number of segment space, memory space to allocate. This is for one instruction space. This is for call space. This is for variable space. This is for global variable space. This is for control execution space, etc. and so on. Whole memory is divided into a number of chunks of the address spaces to allocate different setup. If the local variable is going to be near in the buffer, means suppose if it is in the buffer stage local variable, then in the memory and the stack to change the behavior of the program that may benefit the attacker. So once the attacker locates a pointer or the pointer to local variable, just by changing the pointer reference to the another memory, right, that variable is not going to access. It return address in a stack. Once the function returns, execution will resume at the return address as specified by the attacker, usually input filled buffer. A function pointer or execution handler which is subsequently executed. So this is main program. This is main program. Here function call happens here. Here function is defined with the return pointer. So when you compile and execution begin, this function is going to be called. This is calling function, this is called function. Calling function, this main has a memory and function is also a memory. When call is initiated, this memory is going to allocate by the function instructions and the variables. Once the function of that life cycle of that function is over, this entire logical space is going to remove and the control is transferred back to the called function previously where it call initiated. That is given in the form of statements, here. So again, it continues the remaining code of execution in the main memory. This is one advantage to the exploiter or the attacker. He is going to inject one function call here by having modified pointers here. Then he is calling this function by adding another line of code to alter the memory space of the local variable. In that way, the hacker is going to take a control to the program, and he can use that program for exploitation of the system. Okay, this is about the memory concept. If you are able to if you are clear about the how memories are represented in the system, then it will be very clear. The factors that contribute to overcome the exploits are null bytes in address, variability in the location of cell code, differences between environment. So null bytes in address. So this remaining this is the remaining space is there. Usually it is a null values. There is no values assigned for a specific memory, means usually null values. So these are null values can be used to access the memory from the hackers. NOPS is it is a no operations. NOPS means no operation. It is an assembly language instruction or command that effectively does nothing at all. So it is an assembly language instruction or the command effectively does nothing at all. So NOP allows code to execute when the exact value of the instruction pointer is indeterminate. So NOP is going to execute when the pointer is unable to locate for any specific address, then NOP is going to be executed and it resets the pointer value to the null. So NOP helps to know or locate the exact address of the buffer by effectively increasing the size of the target stack buffer area. So for example, if the pointer, if it is a memory, so obviously if it is the entire memory of the system, let us say, so among that one part of the part is one memory allocated for a program 1. If the pointer is somewhere here, it is indeterminate, but program is here, pointer has to point here, but it is pointing here somewhere in the memory of the system. So this pointer is indeterminate. It is not possible to allocate any of the buffer memory. In such cases, NOP plays a role. NOP is going to reset the pointer, which is reset to a buffer. It identifies where the buffer is present, and this pointer is going to set to the buffer. Attacker can increase the odds of finding the right memory address by padding his or her code with NOP operation. So attacker is going to do this one. The pointer is going to reset to somewhere which is not possible to identify the buffer. So using even NOP is used for both. To do this, much larger sections of the stacks are corrupted with no machine instruction, number of no operations machine instruction. At the end of the attacker supplied data, after the NOP, an instruction is placed to perform a relative jump to the top of buffer where cell code is located. So by through the pointer, by assigning to this pointer to the buffer beginning address space, then the people is going to access the memory. For example, let's say one program is there which is very sensitive. It is able to access the database program. The another program is there. It is able to access to get the like audio video program. So all are resided in memory only. Everything is resided in memory by using address space. So just by changing the pointer location from one program to another program, if the memory is allowed to access, means instead of breaking the code, breaking the door, breaking the locker, instead of doing that, just by changing the pointer value to some other location, the hacker is going to access such information. If it is the case, then the system is very much vulnerable to attack internally through the memories, right? So that's the NOPS assembly which helps to do that thing. Then heap buffer overflow. It occurs in the heap data area and may be introduced accidentally by an application programmer, or it may result from a deliberate exploit. So heap buffer overflow. So for example, it's a dynamic allocation is possible. Yes, if memory is 1 TB of memory, in 1 TB of memory, 1 GB is limited to access one program. Let's say, suppose if 1.5 GB is required to allocate, means heap is going to support for that. If it is you're going to use 900 GB, also supports 999 GB, also supports. If it exceeds 999, means it may reaches 1 TB. The maximum capacity of the system itself is 1 TB. It is not going to allow further because available space is limited. In that case, these kind of buffer overflow, heap kind of buffer overflow attacks can be happen, right? By means pushing the unwanted emails to the inboxes, spamming emails, phishing, all such kind of attacks also a buffer overflow attacks only, because they denial of service DOS attacks also a buffer overflow attack, since they are stopping the services by the intended users. So how to minimize buffer overflow is assessment of secure code manually before launching in a production and use in the real time. Uh, Carefully observe the each line of the code in the development phase. Identify any harmful or the bugs are there in the code. Disable stack execution. In memory based, stop using the stack execution. Allow to use the heap based executions. So compilers tools, upgrade the compiler tools to the latest which supports for memory management effectively. That's why Java was very popular, because the memory management was very beautiful in the Java. So dynamic runtime checks, you should do the dynamically runtime checks before when it launches to the end users. In between, you keep on analyze the how the program behaving for the user inputs, etc. and so on. You keep doing the dynamic runtime checks. Various tools are used to detect a different buffer overflow. For example, you can use the StackGuard, Propolis, LibSafe are the some of the buffer overflow detecting or defending tools available in the market. You can explore these tools to know about the buffer overflow, how they are preventing the buffer overflow attacks and all. Okay, this is about the buffer overflow, and let's look into the small things of wireless network attacks. Please enter attendance in the chat window for that chat window. So I'll discuss wireless network attacks on wireless network. In security breaches, penetration of wireless network through unauthorized access termed as wireless cracking. So in the wireless Wi-Fi systems are there, wireless networks are there. So to breach them for the wireless network, usually unauthorized access will be there. For the like password of Wi-Fi attacking etc. and so on. That's termed to as a wireless cracking. So traditional techniques are sniffing, spoofing, denial of service, man in the middle attack, encryption, cracking are these are the traditional techniques. Sniffing means modifying the packets and re-injecting through the Wi-Fi networks. Spoofing, hiding the information and hiding the IP addresses while attacking. DAS, denial of service, flooded with the TCP packets or the invalid packets in the Wi-Fi networks. Man in the middle attack, so when two persons are communicating each other, the third person who is actively or passively peep into the network to modify the integrity of the data from source to destination. Such kind of attack made it possible in these wireless networks. Encryption cracking by applying the decryption mechanisms or reverse engineering mechanism. Encryption cracking can be made it possible in the wireless network. These are the some of the attacks can be performed on the wireless networks. So how to secure the wireless network is change the default settings of all the equipments or components of wireless network, enable wireless WPA and WP encryption, wireless encryption protection, say encryption, change the default SSID of the equipments installed for wireless network. So enable MAC address filtering, disable remote login, disable SSID broadcast, disable the features that are not used in the access points, avoid providing the network a name which can be easily identified. Don't give your name as a identifying the network name. So connect only to secured wireless network. Use VPN networks, private networks, virtual private networks to secure your wireless network. Upgrade routers firmware periodically. Keep on updating the firmware content. Firmware is a software and hardware mixture. It is installed on the machine to do the intended job of activity for the hardware devices. Assign static IP address to devices. Enable firewalls on each computer and the router. Position the router or the access point safely. Turn off the network during extended periods when not in use. Periodic and regular monitoring wireless network security. These are all the some of the precautions you can take care while using the wireless networks. So means these are all the some preliminary steps needs to be followed. Installing the firewalls, disabling the default password settings. So providing the strong network names, disabling the broadcast messages from the wireless network. Otherwise, what happens if you are not protecting your wireless device? The some other hacker is going to compromise your wireless, then he is using that as a bot to attack to some other machine, and in case of tracing back, yeah, so the your Wi-Fi device will be identified by the forensic department, then you will be under the legal suit. So that's why be careful you by using any of the electronic devices using the internet. Okay, this is about the unit 2. If any questions are there, you can ask me. And these are the some of the references I was made while discussing the unit 1 and unit 2. Slide share I used for some of the tools and methods used in cybercrime. Resource.infosecinstitute.com, 10 popular password cracking tools, and software testing help guru99.com, W3 schools, some of the other websites like India Bigs, then Java T Point, other these stuffs, web references I used for the discussion for the unit 2. If any questions are there, let me know from the topics we discussed so far. These are the topics we have discussed. Proxy server, what is proxy server, anonymizers, password cracking, keyloggers and spyware, virus and worms, Trojan and backdoors, steganography, DOS and DDoS attacks, SQL injection, buffer work. These are the topics we were discussed in the unit 2. Anything else? Any questions are there? Any questions are there? Enter your name and USN in the chat window for the attendance.